All right. How's it going, man?
Good, man. Just another week of work. Nothing really new on my front, to be honest with you.
Nothing new.
Pretty fucking boring, straightforward week. A lot of rain down here.
Really?
That's about it.
We had a lot a couple weeks ago.
I've been running in the rain though, so that's been cool. I'm
Like,
enjoying that.
like,
Well, like when I run in, no, just I run in the mornings, and it's been pouring down rain. So normally I would like go do some kettlebell workout or something else instead, but I was like, man, fuck it, I'll just run while it's raining. And
it's very Rocky-esque. Did you wear a poncho or not?
nah, I just ran like I normally would.
Wow.
It was fun. I mean, it just cools me down whenever I'm like, it's
Yeah.
normally so fucking hot down here.
Yeah.
I'm suffocating during my run, so it was actually very refreshing.
You're equally drenched, though. Just
Yeah,
for different
it's whatever.
reasons.
Yep.
When Joe and I walked from the mechanic back to my mom's house because we didn't have a car when we were on tour, we were drenched. It was crazy. I forgot how much one sweats in the humid weather. Speaking of,
Yeah, it's pretty
Rocky,
terrible. Oh my God, the fucking fights this weekend.
Yeah, what do you think about that? Leon
Holy
Edwards.
shit. I mean, Kamaru was dominating up to that point, and it definitely wasn't a lucky head kick because I was watching some of their training footage from before that. They planned that shit, right? They planned to throw that left hook, and he was setting him up. He was planning to throw that left hook. He knew he was going to dip to the right, and he was going to catch him with that left high kick. Boom, out, headshot, dead.
Yeah, that was such a good one-liner. Pound for pound, headshot, dead. He said it a couple of times. Headshot, boom, dead. But it was raw emotion. You could just tell it wasn't being.
It really was
than him.
Man, to watch a moment like that in sports live, there's nothing like it. Like,
I was getting bored.
None of us were expecting that. I was like, all right, well, this is another decision victory for Usman. Like, I like Usman. I like nothing against him. Like, he was a dominant champion, about to break Anderson's record. Like, so I was there for that too, like to watch greatness transpire of him actually beat that record. So it'd have been cool either way, but like that was ridiculous, that was
crazy.
And the fight before that,
Rockhold and Costa.
Oh my God,
that fight was legendary. Rockhold is an absolute.
He was, I think he just couldn't breathe after he got his nose busted in that first round. Like I was just imagining. I've been in that situation where you have like just blood pouring down the back of your throat from your nose, and you just can't breathe through your mouth or your nose because everything is just clogged with blood. And you're in the middle of a fucking fight, and you're 37, and like just completely gassed, and just the most gangster shit in the third round, like. Fuck you, and just sticks his ass like with a bomb.
Yeah, that bull.
And then ends up on top of him at the very last seconds of the last fight of his career. Like, I'm just gonna I'm gonna make this iconic. Like,
man,
legendary, amazing. Like, actually, a pay-per-view that was entertaining for once.
Luke Rockhold. I think that was his best fight ever.
I mean, he
didn't win.
Yeah, he was.
But the performance and what he did and how raw it was and how deep he dug, that was
he dug deep.
Legendary fight.
It really was.
Because that left hand he was landing, it's not like he was putting it behind crafty combinations. He just
was sticking him with it,
and he stuck him like 2 or 3 times.
And he was
"Fuck you."
Remember and he has hands on his knees. Yes.
Yeah.
When back to back.
Was
boom.
Oh
boom,
no, that didn't hurt.
Boom.
That was so awesome.
He was just sticking him with body kicks. I couldn't believe he was actually had enough energy to throw those at that point. Because before that, he had his hand on his knees, basically about to fall over on the stool in between rounds.
I mean, I don't know what
still comes out banging, bro.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome against the young guy. I mean, he didn't get knocked out. He didn't get put away. It was, he brought the fight. He brought more of a fight than Adesanya. I would love to see him versus Adesanya, or maybe I'm an idiot.
Yeah, I think Adesanya would have been able to pick him apart a bit more. Luke is amazing kickboxing and shit too, but
I don't know. Those are awesome. And then we got Nate Diaz versus Chimaev coming up real quick.
Yeah.
But
bro, how about the fight night before the fight night before the pay-per-view? They had some pretty good bangers on that card too. Cheeto knocking out Dom.
Oh yeah. That was a nasty kick to the face. Just face planted a ledge. That's what happens to legends.
2 in a row with Cheeto taking someone out with a face. Didn't he take out Rob Font with that up kick?
I don't remember,
Nasty,
but I think so.
nasty.
I like the story with Sean O'Malley because that rematch is brewing if Sean continues to
Yeah.
win. But Sean, I don't know. But it's interesting because ifs, but that I always imagine Sean O'Malley having fought Dom and being there. So like there's this backstory every time Cheeto looks good and wins. And then O'Malley goes out because his last fight was controversial, ended to like an eye poke or something.
Yeah.
So every time he goes out, something weird
It's a
happens.
no contest. Yeah.
And everyone wants to see him and Cheeto, but Cheeto's just blasting his way up, and
He's doing.
O'Malley's staying here in the rankings, but relevant in the media. So,
Cheeto's
and
got some power.
I wanted to entertain one last MMA conspiracy before we get into what we want to talk about today. But do you
Yeah.
think the reason John Jones hasn't been booked in any fights is because he's secretly serving a suspension?
A suspension for what?
Another drug testing suspension.
You think he got popped for another drug? I feel like they would have blown that up in the media.
This is the thing. No, because after Sean O'Malley popped a year and a half or 2 years ago, fought it, won the case, got reinstated. They had to they didn't even apologize in the media, but they fucked up his career. Yoel Romero won a multi-million-dollar lawsuit a year and a half pretty recently because same thing, tainted supplement. Like a lot of these tests are BS. Long story short, after that, they changed their protocols silently, but journalists uncovered like new things and stuff. So they changed their protocol to not make public any positive findings unless the fighter wants to, but they can just serve their sentence quietly.
Wow, would make a lot of sense with John. I mean,
Because they're all
he has
available.
been bulking. You know what I mean? Like trying to go up to heavyweight. You'd think you'd want to do it as quickly as possible. It makes sense that you might use some supplements that were maybe on the juicier side of things.
And
Yeah, with a little bit more.
He never changed his behavior, so there's no reason to think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He kept popping and popping and popping. But in the media, it looks good because he's bulking, but maybe he's serving a suspension.
No.
That's why they're not booking him, is because he wants to bulk more. That's what I've heard talked about. So it looks good.
Bulk more. Way. He was already basically a heavyweight when he was a light heavyweight. Like, how much more do you need to bulk?
When you go up a weight class, you're dealing with guys that have been there a long time already. So they've conditioned themselves to a larger amount of muscle and they cut down to the weight class. But when you're coming up, that's exactly
not every heavyweight is every heavyweight is cutting down to 265. Like there are a lot of heavyweights that fight at like 240,
245.
235.
It doesn't matter. They're adapted to it. John Jones is fighting at light heavyweights 205. So it's
but when he walks in there on fight night, he's probably 225, 230.
That's what I'm saying is that's water weight.
Sure.
It's not.
Yeah. Not muscle mass.
It's not the weight difference in muscle mass to where you still because Stipe weighs in 245, but he walks around probably 260, 270. They're still cutting down, and John's just kind of floating. You got to build that little extra so you can, and then you got to condition yourself to carry the extra muscle. There's bulking up the right way, and then there's like what Tony Ferguson's about to do, move up and fight Li Jingliang, which is just going to be water weight 170 versus over time, Li Jingliang is going to be coming down to a comfortable. So anyway, that could be why he's taking time to bulk up properly.
Yeah.
So he can go 5 rounds like he used to. But then Stipe hasn't been booked either. But he's holding out because he's the number 1 guy, which means he would fight Francis, which hasn't been booked either. And he's available, not injured.
His knee's better?
I didn't know it was bad, but
yeah, in the Cyril Gane fight, he had it wrapped and he had to have surgery on it. He had surgery after that fight, so he was still in recovery with a
That's
knee.
Been
he
a
had
while.
An ACL issue.
That's been a while.
It's been like almost a year.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying in the media. It looks good if you want to look at the story, but then it also, they could have booked something by now because John would have fought Stipe. They don't need Francis.
Yeah.
That's the big fight. So maybe it's a secret suspension and everyone's just staying quiet because they're all quiet. No one's giving clear answers.
I mean, John has been unusually quiet lately.
Yeah,
even
that's what I'm
like
saying.
on Twitter and Instagram and shit. Like,
Yeah.
He usually talks a little bit more shit, especially about things like pound for pound rankings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He's been
Okay,
pretty quiet.
well, I think we talked enough
Anyway,
about fighting.
yeah, that was something we enjoy.
But
Fight.
here's something else that the country has been fighting, and it's division over the lead of Anthony Fauci, who seems to be stepping down.
Yes, he is.
Stepping down after 4 decades as being in his current position. I'm curious to know who's going to take his place. But apparently, he's been saying, I'm probably going to make it to the end of Biden's term. He wanted to step down
2025, yeah.
2025. Yeah. So this isn't a surprise, but
He's advised 7 presidents and spent more than half a century at the helm of the National Institute of Health. He's going to leave government service by the end of the year.
half a century, dude.
Yeah, 50 years, man.
Fauci spoke on Monday night on the Rachel Maddow show, suggested that the culture of doubt sown by Trump has affected American health as conspiracy theories thrive, and even as the post-war surge of polio, beaten back for 7 decades by vaccines, has reemerged in New York State. What we're dealing with is a distortion of reality where untruths have become normalized. I mean, that's the environment we're living in. Dude, half of this article it went on about Trump and misinformation.
Yeah,
It wasn't even about
pretty amazing.
Fauci.
It's about how Trump and his the environment that he created is what is causing all of the problems in the country, and why Fauci just has to step away. He just can't do it no more.
It's literally the 4th paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th paragraph where they bring in Trump. The article is titled Anthony Fauci to step down in December, and 5 paragraphs in, they do like a whole page and a half on misinformation from Trump. It's like, what happened to the Fauci story?
So that was on ABC News. I have another New York Times article I was reading it on, and they don't pin it all on Trump, but they talk about Republicans. But some Republicans who consider Dr. Fauci a symbol of the COVID-19 restrictions that they have resisted vowed on Monday to investigate him, even in retirement, if they win control of Congress in November. They said they would examine his response to the coronavirus pandemic, citing research that his institute funded at a virology institute in Wuhan, China, where the novel coronavirus emerged in late 2019.
Maybe that's why he's got to step down, because just like they foresee dumps in stocks, so that's why the Pelosi sold their Nvidia. Maybe he foresees, like, I got to step down because I got to face this super massive case that goes back to the 80s, because there's a lot of praise about him and his AIDS work. And I also hear a lot of, he's the Hitler of AIDS. So I looked into that. And do you know specifically what people were upset about? Or should we go into that part yet? Is there some more here?
No, it's fine. I mean, so this article actually praises him for his AIDS research. So few scientists have had as large or as long-lasting impact on public policy. Dr. Fauci joined the National Institutes of Health in 1968 when Lyndon B. Johnson was president. He was appointed the director of infectious disease branch in 1984 when the AIDS epidemic demanded attention. Let's see.
Can you share that stuff, man?
Yeah, I can.
I'd like to keep the screen active for people watching. Otherwise, I got to go edit pictures and...
You have to enable screen sharing.
Doing it now. Screen sharing enabled. Continue on about 1968 and the Reagan administration and him doing something with AIDS. Beautiful. Look at that.
See, he's advised every president since Reagan, 7 in all, has been adept at navigating the nexus of science and politics. Okay, sure. Among his proudest accomplishments was his work with President George W. Bush in developing a global program to combat HIV/AIDS, known as PEPFAR, which has saved an estimated 21 million lives. Mr. Bush, whose father, George Bush, called Dr. Fauci a hero during a 1988 presidential debate, awarded him with the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2008. And then he was catapulted into the spotlight when the coronavirus began. He could not escape the politicization of the Trump era. President Donald J. Trump toyed with the idea of openly firing him, though that would have been difficult because he's not a political appointee. Blah, 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 blah. They just kind of paint him out as a victim right here. His high profile came at a cost whenever his family received death threats and required security detail. Clash with Senator Rand Paul. called Senator Roger Marshall a moron when the senator suggested that his financial disclosure forms were not public. And
They
yeah, so
arrested a California man who had an assault rifle and ammunition, as well as a hit list that
yeah,
named
hit list.
Fauci, Biden, and others. That was in December.
Hmm.
When? I never heard about that. Well, maybe I did. It was just one of the many things. One of the many things.
This also goes on about the HIV/AIDS thing some more here. He was polarizing then as well, a target of activists who accused him of being responsible for the deaths of gay men by not moving quickly enough to push new treatments through the approval process. Although in that open letter that you sent me, I don't know, that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like he was pushing for like clinical trials of these antivirals that were actually causing the problem to get worse,
Yeah.
rather than bolstering the immune system,
Yeah.
which could have fought HIV/AIDS better than the pharmaceuticals that he was pushing.
Yeah. And the tests or the treatment and all that was based off of the CD4, which is your test cell. There's a name that you know the name. I'm gonna find T cell count.
Yeah,
T cell count. It's technically the CD4 plus with this, but we'll get into that. You want to read some stuff from this open letter?
sure. Yeah, let's let
So
me let you share that.
I found this open letter from it's dated 1988, but in one of the parts of the letter, they mention a recent article from 95. So either way, it's old and recent. Old, oh, not old and recent, old and current to the times. An open letter from what's that college? University of Rochester. It's on their website, and at the bottom, there's a legal disclaimer that says this image is protected by the U.S. copyright law. It's displayed here for the purpose of research, blah, blah, blah. So, to protect it from being taken down. It's a number of letters. It starts, the first one says, Sir Anthony Fauci, you are a murderer. Let me share this. This is a pretty official
written
open
in
letter too. This is like
1988.
a college that published it and put their stamp on it with a number of people from there, and should not be the guest of honor at any event that reflects on the past decade of the AIDS crisis. Your refusal to hear the screams of AIDS activists early in the crisis resulted in the deaths of thousands of queers. Your present inaction is causing today's increase in HIV infection outside the queer community. We're outraged that Project Inform, which is apparently one of his nonprofits, an organization that supposedly works on behalf of the infected community, would insult us by bringing you to our city. You can't hide the fact that you are nothing but a despicable Reagan era holdover and drug company mouthpiece. 270,000 dead from AIDS and millions more infected with HIV should not be honored at a dinner. I noticed in the COVID talk, it said there's 300,000 dead from COVID. So interesting how COVID is so much more universally divisive than AIDS was, which is really just among some people and all the, it's like encompassed everybody in the same amount
Of deaths. Yeah.
yeah. So the next one says, Anthony Fauci, you are a murderer because you oversee government sponsored clinical trials that test and retest combinations of immunosuppressive toxic therapies that kill people with HIV. The majority of U.S. clinical trials involve worthless antivirals like AZT combined with some other drug, generally another toxic antiviral. What these tests have proven is that you are able to piss away billions of dollars testing dangerous compounds that do nothing to improve the quality of life, to stop opportunistic infections, or to extend survival for people with HIV. AZT, 3TC, DDL, DDC, and D4T, and the current crop of protease inhibitors are nothing but poison. 10 years of the plague has shown us that trying to kill the virus kills people with AIDS. And Dr. Fauci, you know it. The immune response against HIV is extremely powerful and is clearly more effective than any of the therapeutic approaches currently available in controlling virus replication. And that was something he says Fauci admitted. Even you admit that.
Still, you give your
Still you give your blessing to clinical trials of highly profitable toxins that destroy PWAs. I think that's person with AIDS, already
person with AIDS.
compromised immune system. CD4s and viral load. This is where it gets interesting when it talks about CD4. It gets more specific. Fauci, you are a liar because you have known for years that CD4 counts are a travesty of a surrogate marker that through drug company coercion have been evaluated to the status of a standard. Are you familiar with what a surrogate marker is here?
I'm assuming the marker that actually shows whether or not you have gotten better or worse with the disease.
Close. The surrogate marker is a marker that's not actually a response of what you're looking for. It's just something related to a response or something.
Got it.
So CD4 is one of those surrogate markers because it's assumed that CD4 there's a level between 4 and 16,000 milliliters or something. I'm missing a little bit, and then there's a range that they look for to see if you have HIV. But CD4 doesn't mean you have HIV. They just associate this
These as a
range
marker, yeah.
range differential to you having HIV. So CD4 levels is what's been the basis for determining if someone has HIV and needs the treatment. So they don't even know. They're just going off of this and the treatment is bad. And that's where all that stuff comes from with Fauci and the AIDS thing, is because he knows that the surrogate marker of CD4 is bullshit. And he knows that you need to boost the immune system, not do antivirals that are hurting people, as well as not even targeting people with the disease because it's based off a surrogate marker that he knows is not correct. So that's a lot of where all this comes from. And it goes deep. I mean, this open letter, I'll post it in the notes under the podcast thing, but it keeps on going about more stuff. And it's great to look into. So I pulled up CD4 so we could just look at that. The full name is CD4 plus T lymphocyte count. Full name is CD4 plus T. Well, what does that mean? The full medical name is CD4 plus T lymphocyte count. Okay. It is called CD4 plus T cell count or T4 count. Everyone should have a CD4 test when they are diagnosed. The result could help estimate how long someone might have been HIV positive. For many years, the CD4 count would be used to decide when to start HIV treatment. ART is what it's called. For at least the last 5 years, though, ART is recommended at any CD4 count, even if still very high. Most guidelines say all HIV positive people should use ART. This is based on START and Temprano studies of 2015. A few countries still wait till CD4 count drops below 500 cells to millimeter to the third bit. This is usually to save money. Once on effective treatment, your CD4 count is now tested less often. So long as you are good at taking meds, this might only be once a year.
So here's what a surrogate marker is.
The CD4 count doesn't directly measure HIV, but it is a good surrogate or indirect marker for how HIV has damaged your immune system. It can indicate the risk of infections. The normal range for a CD4 count in an HIV negative person is between 400 and 1600. This will cover 19 out of 20 people, but 1 in 20 HIV negative people have a normal CD4 count that is either less than 400 or higher than 1600. 1 in 20 have a normal CD4 count. HIV negative people outside this range are still very healthy. They do not have a stronger or weaker immune system.
So, in other words, you could have a CD4 count that's in the range of what they would consider positive, but still be negative.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why that letter is saying that that's a bullshit marker.
Yeah.
In which they base your idea to treat someone or not off of.
Yeah, and then they give you the treatment and you don't even need it. And if you do need it, it fucks with you even more. And they're the study. They are the clinical trial. Just like that's very much how COVID worked. You know, we were the clinical trial for the vaccines. People argue, well, if you know how the FDA works and the Emergency Authorization Act, they already had this, and they know that it was safe.
Blah, blah,
like
blah.
they didn't start making this vaccine until Operation Warp Speed. Period. There's no data. There's no way to know. So, and then the tests were, we talked about it, the president of Tanzania, who's dead mysteriously now, he's the guy who famously tested a goat and a mango and they tested positive. Or was it a papaya? It was
papaya.
a fruit. It was a fruit and it tested positive because the PCR in the test, just like during the HIV era, the PCR thing in the test, it's like it's just history repeating itself, but with COVID and the whole world.
Yeah, we already know the PCR counts were so high, or like the PCR cycles are so high with COVID that it would catch even it would give you a bunch of false
Yeah, and
positives.
it's not even telling you if you
Yeah.
have COVID. It's
Not
another
telling you if you
surrogate
have it.
marker. It's another surrogate marker of something that's people testing positive and they have nothing. People sick and surrogate marker
Well, that's
shit.
not even what they use anymore to tell you if you have it or not, right? Like I think PCR tests are no longer being used for COVID. Is that correct?
I don't know. Enlighten me.
I don't know. I remember hearing or reading something about that. Let's Google it real quick.
What have you found?
Um, let's see. Fact check. CDC is withdrawing its PCR COVID-19 test, but not because it confuses viruses, was the headline I found. It was a
Not,
fact check headline.
but not because
The
it
claim
confuses.
CDC withdraws use of PCR tests, admits it can't distinguish between flu and COVID 19. A widely shared claim on social media has brought the CDC's decision to retire its PCR test for COVID 19 back into the spotlight. So they did decide to retire the PCR test for COVID 19. Blah, 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 blah. And then it goes on to say CDC's PCR test does not confuse COVID 19 and flu. CDC is withdrawing PCR tests to focus on other goals, is the conclusion.
Oh,
Okay.
sounds
That's
trustworthy.
very specific. I'm trying not to read this whole article on air because I haven't read it before.
That's okay. I think we covered it pretty good there.
Yeah, it doesn't
We
really
covered
go
it
on
pretty
that.
good there. There's a lot to look into about his history with AIDS, as far as like going and rereading clinical trials and this and that, and looking into all that stuff, and then actually
He goes on to
determining.
say, yeah, this article goes on to say the agency created PCR test simply isn't needed because hundreds of tests from private companies have addressed this need and been approved by the FDA. The CDC test properly showed positive results only for COVID 19. A person with the flu could not test positive for COVID 19 using the CDC test. So they did discontinue it, but they say because there's other tests that out there that do just as good of a job detecting COVID. Although we know that they had the cycle set at like 60,000 or something ridiculously high, so it was producing a bunch of false positives. So whatever, bunch of horse shit.
Yeah. And what else is a bunch of horse shit, at least to some people, is the student loan getting canceled. Jess, you found a great article that explained by Thomas Kahn why canceling so many student loans is a mistake. Interesting take here.
The reason I chose this particular article is because, this is not someone from an opposing team like a Republican, right? Thomas Kahn was the longest serving Democratic staff director of the House Budget Committee from 97 to 2016. And he currently teaches about Congress and the federal budget at American University, where he is a distinguished fellow with the Center for Congressional and Presidential Studies. He's also a partner in the Cormac Group. So, it's not like he's some Republican that's calling Biden's plan to cancel student loan debt bullshit. He just thinks it's simply an unwise decision for that's going to create long-term suffering with short-term political gain for the administration.
And you asked that question last episode, which was a great point. Is there some kind of negative effect that's going to happen? Excuse me, sometime after the canceling of student loans, like some kind of collapse of a floor in the economy because a void is left.
Correct.
And I thought this answered that. This article
It did a
answered that
pretty good job of highlighting what would happen, when you do initiate this kind of loan forgiveness for large amounts of people. So on Wednesday, so this came out before he actually made the announcement. Turns out that this was true. That he came out today announcing that the government will forgive 10,000 or more in student loans for those that make $125,000 or less a year. And then not, this article doesn't call this out, but in addition to that, he's giving $20,000 to those that had qualified for Pell Grants in addition to their student loans. So in other words, minorities basically that qualify for Pell Grants can get up to $20,000 of debt relief if they make $125,000 or less a year, or if per household they make $250,000 or less a year.
Pell Grants are the free ones, right?
Yes, you do
And
not have to repay Pell Grants.
So you get double for something that's not even a debt.
Well, correct. And the idea is to offset the racial disparity.
Reparations.
Just to a degree, yes, because minorities tend to have higher student loan debt than whites in most cases. So to offset the racial disparity there.
Interesting.
So they're saying that this cancellation of 10,000 can cost taxpayers up to $230 billion over the course of the next 10 years. And actually that's lower than what the estimates are now saying. They're saying up to $300 billion when you factor in, I think, that additional $20,000 that is given to folks with Pell Grants. So even higher than what this article is calling out. And Thomas Kahn is saying this is going to be a big mistake because it's going to increase inflation, boost the deficit, and risk tax hikes and spending cuts on critical spending needs. His opinion is that the president should extend the short-term loan repayment freeze until the economy recovers from the pandemic. So back when the pandemic started, under Trump, they initiated this loan repayment where you do not have to pay on your student loans currently.
Can you share that screen?
Yeah, I'm just reading from the article. This is all information I gathered from other articles. I don't remember where I found them at.
That's fine. That's good.
So what I'm talking about is not necessarily in this article. So canceling student loans on such a large scale would increase inflation by putting more money into the hands of borrowers whose debt is being forgiven. With inflation at 8.5%, the last thing this economy needs is more stimulus. Ironically, such a decision would undo the anti-inflationary and political benefits of the Inflation Reduction Act that the president just signed into law. Jason Furman, who is the former chief economist under Barack Obama, faulted the idea, saying, student loan relief is not free. Part of it would be paid for by the 87% of Americans who do not benefit but lose out from inflation. So once again, this is not some Republican calling him out on his bullshit. This is the former chief economist under Obama.
Wow.
Who also worked with Biden at the time, right?
And I know that you just read that, but I'm thinking about all this is so interesting. It went over my head, but former chief economist under Barack Obama. It's interesting. My first thought is if I told this to people, they'd think I got it from they would just go Trumper type shit. It's Fox like, News, dude, this is your guy. Like Joe Rogan with the COVID interviews with Robert Malone and stuff, and everybody was up in arms, but nobody was talking about how he had Gupta on, which is their guy. It's like, yeah, what about the 3.5 hours they did? You want to talk about that?
Exactly.
So anyway, this is their guy. Anyway, I'm making it divisive right now. We're all
I get it.
And we're all one.
Anyway, it could lead to higher interest rates at a time when Americans are already struggling with the highest rates in decades. When the government borrows billions of dollars, many economists believe it can raise interest rates because the government must compete in the debt market with businesses and consumers who are also borrowing.
I'll be honest, that sentence lost me, and I didn't even try to study it earlier. I was like, that one's...
Anyway, we got 3 minutes, so let's move on. Going to add to the public debt. Blah, 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 blah. The legislation is substantially to reduce the deficit. In 2011, cut discretionary spending targets by $900 billion, which threatened essential programs such as help for people who were homeless, Head Start, and healthcare for veterans.
Like you do all this, and then you got to cut programs.
Yeah, so this is what ends up happening. You got to cut other programs that are supposedly really important to you as a Democratic Party.
So people who make like $130,000 a year and are doing pretty good get a bunch of debt wiped out, and then veterans get even less shit over here, and then taxpayers pay like an extra $850 next year. And everyone's like, yeah, but it's a good thing though, man. Like, fuck. It's a criminal system. It's slavery, is what I see people saying. My favorite singer from a band I like, I follow him, and he's posting like, I worked my ass off and paid off over 100 grand for 2 degrees. Do I want other people to have their debt forgiven? Hell yeah. This is slavery. And it's like, okay, what
But at what
about,
cost does it come? Like, yes, I want
yeah,
that too. I want everyone to be doing well like that too, but at what cost? And that was the question I had last episode. Like, yes, that sounds like a great thing, but at what cost, right?
people
Like,
have so much of their heart wrapped up into it that just discussing basic economics around this decision
you
is
pull
off
one
the
lever,
board.
something else gets fucked up, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
thing you have to consider. That's why you
And
have balances. That's why there's checks and balances in our system because of things like this.
yeah. And they're so like politically awake, understanding how college degree stuff is slavery, but bringing up how their favorite person, I don't want to generalize, but let's say Hillary Clinton, she fucking offed Gaddafi, and then open air slave trading started up for a few $100 a person. And no one talks about that fucking slavery, but
Nope.
like, hell yeah, forgive the debt, man. It's fucking slavery, dude. What are you? A fucking like idiot? So that's what I think of every time I see
I think that
people.
yeah,
I don't know if this is a great thing. I paid my college debt off cash. It wasn't a lot, but I still paid it. So like, am I gonna get some tax
no,
cut?
you're not getting shit.
Yeah. All right. So um well, we're talking about a lot of money and
Let's talk about my
deficits.
boy,
My boy,
my boy Paul Pelosi.
what about that? What about Big Paul?
Man, Big Paul could see the future, and he said, "I'm getting the fuck out of Nvidia stock," and sold 25,000 shares worth up to $5 million at a reported loss.
A loss. Didn't
See, when
Nancy
you
show a
initially sent
loss?
me, yeah, when you initially sent me this article, I was like, well, so the inside joke, or not even joke, but like thought is that Nancy Pelosi gives her husband, who's a prominent, Wall Street guy or whatever the fuck he does, um, insider information before the legislature comes out that affects all the stock of these companies, and they make a bunch of profit on it, right? That's been the thing for years. And you send me this article, I'm like, well, wait a second. So he's selling a bunch of stock before legislature comes out that is going to potentially bolster this stock for Nvidia. So like, what's the angle here? Like, I didn't know why you sent it to me at first, and then I was like, well, maybe they just did it for transparency's sake, like because they get a lot of criticism about this type of stuff. So let's just take this one L, and it'll get some of the heat off of the back of us, especially lately with people asking about, hey, should members of Congress even be allowed to buy and sell shares of these publicly traded companies? So yeah, before the Chips Plus bill came out, Paul Pelosi sold between 1 million and 5 million worth of Nvidia stock at a average price of $165.05 on July 26, according to mandatory congressional financial disclosure filed Tuesday by Nancy, the speaker. Now, that's pretty notable because Nancy rarely volunteers such detailed information about her husband's stock and stock option trades. But the Pelosi's have faced significant questions and criticism from the right in recent days about the timing of Paul Pelosi's Nvidia investments, because he had made a bunch of those purchases recently before this bill came out. So,
While the bill was going through Congress, he bought between 2.75 and $11.5 million of stock in Nvidia. And then once the bill hit, he sold. How much did he sell? 5 million.
And lost about $320 something thousand worth of profit from that sale.
So,
and then Pelosi continuously denies that her capitalist husband trades stocks using information she gives to him. Absolutely not. Absolutely not, she says.
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
Absolutely not. It's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous concept. I don't know how I'm worth like $150 million and I'm a member of Congress, but
Yeah.
anyway,
I mean, I think it's total conflict of interest, and I don't know why. That's just what my
100%.
gut says. People in Congress trading because they work with Wall Street. That's who they work for.
Right.
So, and when COVID hit and the pandemic hit, there was a big pandemic. I don't know why I said it weird, but there was a big sell off of stocks. I remember reading about that time. There's always these people in
Yeah.
Congress, and it's her too, and it's
Before
the
the
same people.
lockdowns.
Yeah.
Before they knew they were going to lock down, they sold a shitload of stock of companies that they knew were going to suffer based on these fucking lockdowns. So they're a bunch of goddamn criminals, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I don't think you'll be defending um, insider trading if you weren't insider trading,
No, exactly.
or you're of an expert. That's what I'm saying. She is an expert trader if she's so well in line with what the market's going to do that they have to investigate her for insider trading, basically, if that's what's happening. But that's my thinking. I mean, if
Yeah.
they're on you for insider trading, I mean, you done fucked up a bunch already. Stop acting like you ain't done nothing. That's my thing. And the reason I bring up these articles is because for me, they just raise red flags. I feel like if I can get to the bottom of this whole stock thing, which I'm sure there's a simple answer, some smart person would be like, "Oh, it's just money." But to get my head around who is selling and trading what companies and at what times in relation to the bills that are being passed, I feel like watching a sport. You don't know what you're watching, and then when you get
Well, it's
familiar,
like
you're
if
like,
you
oh,
get
this. So trying to see their plays happen. That's what I feel like we can do is be like they do know it is insider trading. It's got to be.
Yeah, it 100% is. It's like if I were able to get all of the fucking, information about Apple stock 2 weeks before earnings calls, right, where they're going to talk about, this is the profit we made last quarter. These are projections for next quarter. And you have an idea based on that how the stock's going to perform after that earnings call. Like I would know, like, hey, I know exactly when to buy and when to sell based on what information is about to come out. Like that's essentially what's happening here, but with legislature instead of like earnings announcements, essentially.
Yeah, and it's not because they work for the company. It's because they are.
Well, it's illegal
I,
if you work. It's illegal if you work for the company to do that shit.
I know. I'm just making a comparison. Like it's worse when they do it because it's not like they even work for the company, but they're compromised across many leaders of the company, and they're not in charge of a product. They're in charge of signing whether or not we get health care during a pandemic or not. And while they don't do that, then they go and sell stocks because of their insider tips because they're not working for us, they're working for Wall Street. So they don't take a big hit when the economy is about to crash because we're taking all the hits. So it's like super 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 fucked up
Yeah, super
that
fucked
they're.
up.
I mean, I wouldn't be so worried about it if they would just take care of us a little more. What does that even mean? But I just think about healthcare as kind of a big thing I harp on
Yeah.
because there's no reason why it shouldn't be happening.
Let's just read the end of this article, right? So, the Speaker's husband's trades also arise at a time when Congress is debating whether its members and their spouses should even be able to be allowed to buy, sell, and hold individual stocks at all. Pelosi herself originally opposed this idea, saying, "We are a free market economy. They should be able to participate in that." Well, talking about her fucking self. She ultimately backtracked after sharp criticism from members of Congress on both sides of the aisle and the general public, allowing bipartisan groups of lawmakers to draft bills and hold a public hearing. I've said to the House Administration Committee, review all the bills that are coming in and see which ones, where the support is in our caucus. If members want to do that, I'm okay with that. Despite several proposed bills from Republicans and Democrats in both chambers, not a single one has been brought to a vote. Representative Abigail Spanberger told Insider that she thinks leadership is trying to run out the clock and that the push has been halted by anyone who has the ability to move the bills forward. So these bills are limiting the ability for Congress to buy and sell stock, right? So no one's they're putting on this big show for the public. Oh, we're going to do something about it, but like no one's moving at all to actually take action on this.
Yeah,
Speaker
and
Pelosi herself doesn't trade stocks, but her husband is a frequent investor. Insider collected each of his trades that the speaker reported in 2021 and 2022. Many of his trades are worth millions. And a previous analysis from Insider found in late 2021 that the speaker is ranked as the 14th wealthiest member of Congress with an estimated net worth of at least $46,123,051 as a
dang.
public servant.
This is a rhetorical question, but who do you think she's getting all that money from?
Her husband in the in the trades that he's making based on the information she's giving him. It's a dirty, dirty game.
Yeah.
So
you said something earlier about maybe they'd be doing this just to cover themselves. And in one of these other articles, there's just a spot where a Schwab, who was Schwab? I think it's the representative. No. And he said their defense was basically, I didn't profit off my conflict of interest. And Schwab was saying that's not a defense. So I think you nailed it. I think that's one of the angles here that they're doing these sales is to show that they have losses. And yeah, it's conflict of interest, but we didn't even profit though after this bill comes out. Do you know what I'm saying?
yeah. Well, and here's the funny thing, right? So they made these sales. This article came out July 27th, 2022.
Share it, please.
Sure.
Kindly. Dude wore
And
his
I'm like
black
perusing
shirt.
through Google News earlier today, and I noticed that there's this other, I guess, investment company that sold $15 million worth of Nvidia stock today. I'm like, okay, well, why did they sell this $15 million Nvidia stock? And then I say, well, what's going on with Nvidia stock right now? And here you go.
Oh, is the logo
Nvidia,
a slice of pizza or
I
like
don't
a 666?
know. What does that have to do with anything?
I don't know. Symbology. Okay, go
I get
on.
it. Nvidia plunges after Q2 preliminary results show weaker gaming revenue. And this came out on August 9th, 2022. So he sold his shares late July. And then you have this analysis that Nvidia comes out with a statement saying basically we're going to have weaker revenue coming out before this next quarterly earnings call, that because of weaker gaming revenue, essentially. So he saw the future again. You know, they had this chips bill coming out. He was gonna make a bunch of money on that. A bunch of heat comes down on them from Congress, like, hey, you guys shouldn't be allowed to do this type of shit. You know this legislation is about to come through. Oh, no big deal. Let me sell off what I have. I'm gonna take it out of loss. Yet he would have potentially lost even more because
Their sales were down.
yes.
Okay, so you're saying this article right here about the Nvidia stock plunging, their sales plummeting. That was after they sold stocks when the bill
Yes.
happened.
So he could have lost a lot more money.
So he did know the future.
I guess.
Bro,
maybe I'm too stupid to understand this shit, but this is just the way the timeline's playing out to me.
Listen, bro. We have to just watch sitting members of Congress and their trading.
Well, yeah, there's a Pelosi stock trader Twitter account that shows you all the Pelosi trades that actually happen. Did you not know this?
No,
you can
dude.
actually invest exactly as Pelosi. She's better at investing than Warren Buffett is. You know that?
Really?
She has a better return than Warren Buffett does.
Oh, she's not compromised.
Not at all. Not at all. They're just that good at.
I wonder why we didn't get
They're
health
just
care.
that good at it, bro.
Wow. That's amazing. Pelosi stock trader account. There's some funny people out there, man. That's
incredible.
funny.
This is incredible to me. So the Santa Clara, California-based chip maker released preliminary second quarter earnings yesterday, showing revenue reaching $6.7 billion, well below its earlier outlook of $8.1 billion. The revised figures represent the top line contracting 19% sequentially from the previous quarter and 3% from the prior year. So, I mean, he's just real good, dude. He knew that they were going to miss their target by $2 billion or so, or a little less than $2 billion. And he got out at the right time, man. Yeah, he lost a little bit. He lost $320-something thousand, but that's a drop in the bat. That's fucking nothing, bro. Off a $5 million trade. Incredible. It's fucking
Yeah.
incredible. Really is, man.
Yeah. What do you think the average person would say if you tried to boil this down and bring it up real quick?
I couldn't describe this well enough to boil it down for the average person without pulling these articles up and showing them side by side with each other. So I don't know.
Like if you were
Because
to
it's
say,
complicated shit, man. I mean,
yeah, it is.
you got to be in it to really see how fucking crooked and corrupt these people are. And the average person going to work every day, they don't have time to fucking look at this stuff, dude.
That's what makes us and our show special because we do it for y'all. So you just have to
That's right.
listen.
That's why we do it.
We'll keep you up to date, as well as sprinkling in deep dives about archaeology and other topics. But I feel like the current events, they're always happening. So it's like we got to keep up with this and then add this stuff on, you know.
Yeah, I think that the common thread of our show is we're constantly searching for truth in all things, whether it be ancient history, conspiracies, current events.
I've always said that we're learning what we don't know about what we do know. But I don't know if that's a good tagline or not. It hasn't seemed to been going viral or nothing or really taken off lately.
Well, with our 17 listeners, it's hard to go viral with that. So just let it grow, man. Yeah, thank you for everyone stuck in there.
Water in the garden. Yeah, so fucking wow, huh? That's how the world works.
That's how the world works. We missed. So our boy, are you seeing this? So let's check out our boy Paul. This was a
Big Paul Pell.
Big Paul Pell partying too hard, bro.
Paul Pell partying.
Paul Pell's partying too hard. Let's watch it. Yeah, hold on. Let me see if I can get this. Let me stop sharing. Because I haven't even watched this yet. I wanted to watch this live on air.
Oh, live reaction. Perfect. Live reaction.
Perfect.
Skepsis Telegraph live reaction to Big Paul.
All right, let's see.
Big Paul got a DUI.
You think you're physically able to balance on one foot or another? No. Okay. Yeah, I don't want you to injure yourself if you can't.
Paul P, baby.
He's standing at the hood of the car trying to do a balance test.
Looking sharp. Your boy's a little wobbly.
You seem pretty shaky on your legs, and I don't want you to fall over. So. Well, I think I fall over. Right. Well, just based on what I'm seeing, I don't feel comfortable having you perform the test because I don't want you to have the potential to fall over and hurt yourself. That's not what I'm trying to accomplish. Are you willing to do the breathalyzer test?
May 28th.
Right. No, I understand you want to go home.
This was a while, and we just heard about it.
I understand that you want to go home, but
you
got to understand from my standpoint.
A DUI sucks so bad. This guy wishes he could go home to his wife, Nancy Pelosi.
I can see you're very unsteady on your feet. So you see where it's concerning to me. Right. I understand what you told me, but on my end, you also got to look at from my end. I smell the alcohol.
So he's just stalling right now.
I see how unsteady you are on your feet. So
cut to scene now. He's standing with his hands in his pocket, realizing he's fucked. Look at the look on his face. That's the look of a man who knows he's like most likely fucked right now.
Well, I didn't even have him do it.
I mean, he's so rich though. He's not worried about this. Yeah, so our boy Paul P got a DUI.
This phone belongs.
Wow, did you see the way he walked away like that? I mean, I would never walk away from where the cop told me to stand. You know, he just was like, "All right, I'm like you're done in a conversation and you just kind of mosey off." That's what he did at the front of the cop car.
He's 82.
82, man.
Sentenced to 5 days in jail, 3 years probation. He crashed, so that's why he was initially stopped. He crashed in the.
Have you looked into the Anne Hesh conspiracy, the actress that died in the car crash? And did you see that video of her being put in the ambulance? She was like a exorcist, demonically possessed, bloody covered body and you could see it from the helicopter camera. It was real weird. I didn't keep up with the details, but of course it was connected into that she was working on a documentary for Hollywood pedophilia and she went psycho. And then there's a bunch of references to some previous work she did and the titles and what it was about. Like apparently there is this whole rabbit hole of Anne Hesh that connects into the deaths of, conspiratorially speaking. I haven't gone on the rabbit hole, but you know, it's coming through those avenues.
Let's pull that up for next time.
Yeah, something who's Paul Walker and Anthony Bourdain, they put her name up there with those two working on, because they were all supposed to be investing and working on
all
a
three
documentary
dead.
about Hollywood pedophilia.
All three dead. Wow.
But I mean, it is pretty crazy.
We gotta find how true that is, though.
You want to look into that and do an episode again?
Hey, I want to look into it. If it's worth anything, we'll do an episode on it. But if we find out it's like total bullshit, then we'll talk about it next episode that it's just total bullshit.
Well, we'll have current events again next episode. We still got the Denisovan Giants book, so we don't want to bite off too much. Maybe we can just do like a quick surface deep dive and throw out a 30 or 40-minute special.
Sure.
Sunday night. Sunday night. And then Wednesday, we'll 3 articles like this is perfect.
Yeah, it's the right amount of time.
Yeah,
it's not super long.
5 or 6.
Not super hard to research.
All right, well, let's look into the Anne Hesh stuff and talk about that. And then we'll collect a couple articles for next Wednesday. And I'm gonna start reading the Denisovan book again, and we can prep that deep dive.
I'm about it.
About it.
I like how in this arrest, just to wrap it on this, how the cop says, and this isn't in the video, but this is in the transcript. I'll discuss with my supervisors to see what they're willing to do just because we know you're a high profile person. Like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? You know what I mean? Like, yes, he's a rich husband of the Speaker of the House, but that does not grant him any type of special privilege because of that.
Yeah, what do you think
when it comes to obeying the fucking law?
Yeah.
Like, that's what's wrong with these goddamn stupid, rich, powerful people, is that they don't get held to the same standards that everyone else does.
So I'm going to ask a logistical question. How do you think that happened? Do you think the cop already knew there's like a list of people that you just work with? Or was there a phone call made like he got paid? It's like, hey, blah, blah, blah.
They probably pulled his license like, oh, Paul Pelosi. Oh, that Pelosi. Oh, I want to see Nancy Pelosi's.
Yeah, but that's a thing that comes from the higher up. It's like the Charles Manson thing, how when he would get arrested.
Well, he says in here, I'm going to discuss this with my supervisor to see what they're willing to do just because we know you're a high profile person.
That's what I'm saying. He already knows this is somebody who I work with. So there's not even a phone call that happens. There's almost like a list of people like we just know.
Well, it's almost like they just know that anytime you're dealing with someone who's rich or fucking famous, that there's a bit of special privilege you're supposed to allow them.
Nobody knows who Paul Pelosi is. Nobody knows who the fuck that guy is. If I walked by him, I wouldn't know who the fuck he was. I wouldn't assume a cop.
But as soon as you pull his
Paul Pelosi,
but what I'm saying, Dylan, as soon as you pull his, the first thing you do is you grab license and registration,
and you see that he's married to Nancy.
Well, you see his name is Pelosi, Paul Pelosi. Oh, I know who the fuck that is. He lives in California with Nancy and Paul Pelosi, who represent his area. Pelosi's. Bro,
they represent his area, so he knows who. Like,
I mean, he's pulling over a person in the district that Nancy Pelosi represents. You don't think they know who fucking Pelosi is there?
Pelosi, there's a lot of Pelosi's though. Like, it's like Thibodeau.
How do you know there's a lot of Pelosi's?
How do you know there's not? There's a lot of Thibodeaus in Louisiana. I
guess not.
Like Dale Thibodeau. Like, oh, I know you're a high profile person. Like, how? Because there's a lot of Thibodeaus. Like Pelosi, that's not a
so what your argument is that they just walk around with a list of people that they're supposed to like check on before they do anything to? I think the more likely realistic scenario is like, oh fuck, this guy is Nancy Pelosi's husband. Let me make sure that
refer to Manson. Remember when we talked about Manson? When he would get arrested, all the cops knew who he was, but when he would get arrested, there would be a phone call later, and then it would be let out. Like something would trickle down from higher up. So I was just asking logistically, how do you think it happens in this moment? Do you think I don't think people know who Paul Pelosi is, even if you're from there. Maybe if you're a cop, but like Paul Pelosi's fucking nobody. He's the investor. She's the politics. He's the money. Like nobody knows who the fuck this guy is. And just seeing Pelosi doesn't mean like, oh, I mean, if you see Schwarzenegger, then you know, okay, you're a Schwarzenegger. There's no other ones like that. So to me, my thinking is like, it's got to be something like the Charles Manson thing, where something, hey, we got Paul Pelosi, and then while they're talking about all this shit on the radio, and he's standing there, maybe there's a feedback from like the office, the sheriff, the top sheriff, who's like, Pelosi, Paul Pelosi, tell him to call the supervisor or something. That's what I'm thinking might happen. Or yeah, they have an understood list. Or the third option, he knew who Paul Pelosi was. He's like the only guy in California who will recognize Paul Pelosi.
I think you're
in public.
misunderstanding. Like, I guess so. But to me, the more likely scenario is that, like, hey, I know Nancy Pelosi lives in this area. So if I pull over a Pelosi, do you have any relations to Nancy Pelosi? Oh, I'm her husband.
Well, it's on video.
Okay, I'll
Did
discuss
you
with my
ask her that?
supervisor. No, but we didn't have we couldn't hear this part on video either, and this was supposedly on video. It says that it can be heard him saying, "I'll discuss with my supervisors to see what they're willing to do," just because we know you're a high-profile person. And I think Paul Pelosi is a higher profile person than you think, considering as much he's been in the news with insider trading over the past couple of years in relation to Nancy Pelosi. And then these cops, what I'm saying is like these cops live and work in the area where Nancy Pelosi lives. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's not like it's some cop in Louisiana that pulls Paul Pelosi over that doesn't know who the fuck a Pelosi. You know what I'm saying? Like this
Paul
is
Pelosi. Man,
yeah,
Paul
like this
Pelosi.
is someone who lives and works in the area where Nancy Pelosi
probably know who he
represents
is
them.
then.
Yeah.
Maybe so.
It's like knowing who Bob Giles is living around here, right? Like,
I don't
own
know.
a bunch of
That's
car
what I'm
dealers.
saying.
Own
I don't
only
know
a bunch
who
of
the
car
fuck-
dealers. You see them on commercials around here and shit. Like,
I used to live there, and I don't know who Bob Giles. I would
well,
not
you haven't lived
recognize
here
him.
in like 10 years, so
No, like 5.
whatever.
Dude, Bob
Anyway.
Giles has been around for a while, right?
Very long time.
Exactly.
Just first
So,
example I could think of right there. But
like who's our Greg Abbott? I wouldn't recognize him in public.
no.
If I saw his ID.
Yeah, you see his
But
ID, you
anyway.
read his name. Anyway, that's a mute point. My point being that either way it goes, either way you cut it, like it's bullshit that they have to like, oh, well, let me see because you're a high profile person. Let's see what they're willing to do for you. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. No, you go to jail just like everyone else when you get pulled over and you're drunk. Is my point. There should be none of that either way. Whether it's a list that he came from that they have to check on, or he just happened to recognize that it was Paul Pelosi. I think it's fucked up that he gets special treatment. Or even though he didn't get special treatment, just the thought of potentially getting special treatment is fucked up.
While
do
he
that for anyone
knows
else.
to trade he's like, I got to trade my stocks off before I lose a shit ton, and this DUI is not going to hit me at all. 5 days
Yep.
in jail, you know, I mean, he's got some hookers going and licking his butthole. He's the only guy in his cell, full shower. You know, he drops the soap for the man of his choosing, not the other way around.
Exactly. Even though he's not going to spend time in that kind of jail ever.
So, I mean, who would have thought we'd be covering more news about the Pelosi's getting away with everything scot-free while the rest of the world sucks him off under the spell of hero worship?
He's gonna. Oh, poor thing. He has to pay $7,000 in fines. Oh my god, it's gonna hurt him real bad. Even though he just made a trade that lost him $326,000, he doesn't even blink an eye at it.
Yeah.
Who fucking cares?
You saw the way he walked away from that cop car again. That must have been him knowing, all right, these guys are going to take care of me. He's discussing it with the boss.
Yeah, he's still got a DUI. Still got to complete the DUI program. So he didn't get away scot-free. But
well, thank you everybody for tuning into this. Don't forget to check out our bands. Subscribe to our podcast. We're going to be podding more consistently now. We've been on a little rocky road. Not rocky road, but just inconsistent. So
yeah,
keep tuning in. We'll be here talking about stuff. If we're wrong, let us know. If we're right, which
let
is
us
a lot,
know.
let us know.
All right, love you guys.
Yeah, I love you, all the fans out there. So on the video, like Instagram and I think I'm gonna make us a TikTok because people actually watch a lot of those videos. I'll post shorts and shit. So
Fucking
I mean, I don't really post a
TikTok.
lot on their page. I'm not really narrating stuff on their page. So I don't really.
TikTok.
Hey, a lot of people watch videos. I got 2 TikToks. I got a bunch of fucking videos, and I used Alfred's music. So TikTok pays royalties. So Alfred's music has like 1,000 royalty things that got. I don't know how much money that is. It's probably shit, but
Probably
TikTok's crazy.
17 cents.
Hey, man.
Yeah, something.
Anyway, yeah,
Something.
TikTok's legit, bro. TikTok is
Yeah,
legit.
I still have not downloaded it on any of my devices. But yeah, maybe I should.
I mean, maybe not. You could easily make guitar videos for Death of Skepsis, and we should make a Death of Skepsis TikTok and start posting like little videos, performance practices and shit like that. Just simple shit.
Yeah, Jarek it already bitches at me about not doing that for Gotham. But so I need to do it for both bands,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, you need to finish your thing on B modes and send it back to me so we can
Oh,
move on to
fuck,
Vulture
yes.
Stone.
I do need to do that. Fuck.
Go on to Vulture Stone.
All right, I got some work I need to do.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right, man.
See you
Good
Saturday night.
episode.
Let's
See you.
read up a little bit on Anhesh, and we'll talk about it.
And Hesh.
Sunday night. Is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, I'll let you know if we have to move it at all, but I think Sunday night should work. I have a show Friday, Saturday I just work, Sunday I just work, so should be good Sunday night.
Okay.
Oh, I have band practice Sunday, so, well, we might not since we have a show Friday.
All right. Well, just let me know.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know after Friday night.
Maybe
Let you know
we'll-
Saturday.
Okay, we'll figure it out. Maybe we'll do
Yeah.
Anhesh and an article next Wednesday.
Oh, maybe it'll swing Sunday. Let me just see if I have practice or not.
All right, man. Later. Bye, everybody.
Later, bro.